All right, my name is Kamran Khan. I'm part of the Brunel University Society, and this is our first ever podcast segment with Zion. And before we start the conversation, Zion, do you have your consent to record this?
Yes, of course.
All right,
Let's go.
great. So before we start off with what Zion does and what his company does, Whistler. So Zion, can you tell me a bit about yourself in terms of who you are, what's your background? Yeah.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on. It's such a privilege to be speaking to you, Cameron, and to the leaders of the society. I really appreciate you for having me here. A bit about me. Well, like you said, my name is Zion Kolade. I'm 22 years old. I'm from Nigeria originally. I was born there, but I moved here when I was 8 years old, so 2008. I'm part of the first generation immigrants to come to the UK. A little bit about me. I went to the University of Portsmouth, graduated there with economics and management. Let's not talk about the grade that I got, but we'll move on from that. Economics and management. But apart from that, I studied, like I said, I'm very big on business, obviously, because I'm here to talk about business. But apart from that, I'm very dynamic. I'm very adaptable. I'm very up for anything, which is why I decided to do a podcast.
So in terms of your business, I mean, Whistler, so from the conversation that we had, I think it's like a kind of a home for entrepreneurs. That's what you say, and it's kind of like a platform where you consult, different startups in terms of if they want to go into different fields. So, what's that exactly? How did you came up with that concept?
So, quick story. The thing is about me, I love stories. So it allows,
great.
It allows people to understand better. So, let's go into that. So, quick story about me. During the pandemic around like 2020, or just before we were about to go into the pandemic, people kept coming up to me and saying, Zion, can you help me out with setting up my business? And I was like, why are you asking me? Yeah. At this point, I just started university, I was in first year of university, and people kept, Zion, could you help me with registering my business? Zion, should I be a sole trader?
For you, like you're the go.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you coming to me? Like I've never I've always said I'm interested in business, but I've never expressed I'm never expressed to be that guy in business, right? There's Google, there's other people around me. Yeah. So I was thinking like, why me? And the entrepreneurial spirit inside me said, let's just give this a go. Let's see what happens. So what I did was that I set up an Instagram, and I was like, I called it CTS Consulting to sound really, really professional. Yeah. In reality, it meant nothing. It's just, CTS Consulting is a big... you know what I mean? So it sounds professional. In reality, it wasn't. So I said, I'm going to, do a consulting company. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give out information for free. Yeah. Right? So if you are somebody who wants help within your business, you can come to me for free and I'll help you out. And lo and behold, surprisingly, people took me up on that offer. Within a month, I got up to like 5 clients. Oh, that's nice. Probably because it was for free. Everyone gets it for free. Yeah. So, and I got up to 5 clients, and I realized I can only handle 5 clients at a time. I'm only one person. Yeah. And plus, if I'm doing it for free, I can't afford to go and hire other people. It doesn't really make any sense, right? So I was like, how do I actually expand this? How do I scale this? How do I scale this? It's not really possible. And the other thing that I found out, Cameron, was that they were asking me not questions of, how do I get a return on my investment, 20%. They weren't asking me, Zion, how do I grow from X amount to X amount? They were asking me small questions like, what do I set up as? How do I go and register my company? What's company's house?
Kind of like the most basic information.
The most basic.
Yeah, everyone would ask.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was thinking, okay, great. They're not asking me yet, how do I scale and how do I do all of this and that. They're asking me information, those small bits of information. So I said, cool. There must be a way for me to scale that. Yeah. Because if it was more tailored information, if it was more, nuanced piece of information, that might be harder to scale. But the small pieces of information, I could do that pretty easily. And then I can use that as a vehicle to then, giving, advice on the more nuanced stuff. So I said the best way to do that, and the way that people are getting information nowadays, is through short form video content.
Short form,
everyone's on TikTok.
Everyone's on Instagram. You're making some reels and then probably post it online so that people can
get but the problem with reels and Instagram and TikTok is that they get all the information. I just get views and maybe a like. Yeah. Right. So I said, okay, cool. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create my own website, my own platform, and then I'm going to channel people through that. That way, not only do people get to watch the content, but I get their emails, I get the data, right? I think I was talking to Salika about the importance of data, right? So I did that. I created the website, and on the website, through short form video content, I was explaining things like how to register, digital marketing, like simple, small concepts.
Simple, like stuff that normally like people would want to know in terms of like setting up a business.
Setting up a business, exactly. Yeah. And through that vehicle, Wizlaw was born, right? Yeah. So we said that Wizlaw, when I started it, me and a friend, we said that Wizlaw will be the home of entrepreneurship, where any entrepreneur, small or growing business owner, can come and get education, consultation, and entertainment, all for free. We started it off for free, right? And then we've recently added a new pillar to that. So apart from those 3 pillars, education, consultation, entertainment, we talked about connection and the importance of connection.
That's really
exactly. So, we'll probably talk about that as you go on. But that's how Wizlaw started.
How did you come up with the name Wizlaw?
You thought it was Wizlaw before?
Yeah, I thought it was Wizlaw because I was pronouncing it as Wizlaw, but then you said it's Wizlaw. So what's how do you come up with the name?
I'll tell you. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. Yeah. So I was looking for stories, and the thing is, when you come up with a business name, this is one of the tips we talk about on the website. You actually have to take into account registering as a domain name, and then you have to take into account whether it's actually taken. All the other business names that I wanted to, for example, I came up with Daybreak, and I was like, no, Daybreak is kind of sounds like cereal, doesn't it? Like morning cereal. So I was like, I can't use that. So I have to take into account these things. Domain names, they're gone. Most of the domain names are gone. So the strategy that I came up with is I'm going to have to come up with a word. Right? I'm going to have to come up with a word. And one word is usually better, right? Think of the best companies you know. One word. Apple, Facebook, Google. Like one word, boom. And you might not understand what the word means, but it's one word, explains what they are, right? So I was like, cool, I'm going to have to come up with my own word. So I was like, okay, what is the business at its core? I said, through the short form videos, we are giving out information or wisdom. Right? You can probably see where it's going. So we're giving out wisdom, and we want it to spread. We want it to, not just one person. We want it to go from you to. And the 2 words that I came up that kind of, conceptualized both of it was wisdom and folklore. Do you know what folklore is? So folklore is like, it's the definition is like, when you're talking to the people in your community and you're telling stories to the people. And the best thing about the word folklore is it's about stories, right? And one of the things that makes us stand out, compared to other people, is that every single piece of information we give out on the website is we tell it through stories, right? We tell everything through stories. So it's more interesting for you. If I just came and I just started telling you, this is how to set up a business, this is how to do this, it's kind of boring. But if I told it through a story,
that makes sense.
More interesting. So that was the beauty of the word folklore. So we got those 2 words, wisdom and folklore. When you put them together, what did you get?
Wizlaw.
So that's where it came from.
Unique concept, So in terms of your the concept, how you build it up as a home for entrepreneurs and how you're venturing into networking. So in terms of your marketing, how did you basically go about your marketing strategy in terms of getting like you said you had 5 clients initially. What was the next step in terms of expanding that?
The next step in terms of expanding that is telling our story. So
you went on to connecting with different universities, I would presume.
Exactly. I was talking to who was I talking? I think I was talking to Assad about the Zuckerberg method. I don't know if you ever watched the Social Network, the movie, the one about Facebook, and the way that he got it to kind of blow was that he made it. He went from university to university, very method, in a methodical way. So he started at Harvard, which was the university he went to, and he made it exclusive for Harvard. Then, obviously, the universities around Harvard kind of get jealous, what's this platform these guys are on that we're not on? So Stanford and, all of these universities, well, not Stanford's in LA, but universities around Harvard want to be we kind of want to get into that. So he go on to the next university, and then the next university. Then he will move on to another state. So LA, there's, a lot of universities in LA. He will start in one university, give it to them, make it exclusive for them. Then the other universities will get jealous, and then they would want to be on the site that their friends who go to another universities are on. So the demand is building up from there, right? So, I kind of adapted that. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Plus, universities are where students are. and students are the next generation. If I can get them hooked onto an idea, onto a concept, then they can grow up. Think about it. We grew up on Facebook. And why is that? Because those that started on Facebook were students who like grew up as the platform grew as well. So, you know, my idea is, and my, like you said, marketing strategies, if I can talk to as many different students young people who want to start their own business. And then we go from there. You know, of course, it's not going to be quite like Facebook. Maybe one day, you know, we'll see. But, you know, starting at the grassroots, you know, if I did an over-the-top campaign, you know, just to be like, this is...
Just be in the market, from the get-go.
It wouldn't make sense. But grassroots, you know, you're planting, like you're making sure that, you know, people know you're at a local level, and then we can go from there.
That's exciting. So what's your, your revenue strategy? Do you have some sort of a subscription model, or do you have like different sort of packaging that, you know, anyone can take up? Like for myself, if I want to take up as I want to start a business, so what's like kind of the pricing to it then?
So at Whistle right now, we're not concerned too much about revenue, right? But it doesn't mean we don't want to make money. Of course, we want to make money.
Wants to make money.
Exactly. Right? You know, so but it's not our main focus. Our main focus right now is to get it out there. See what people think.
Spread the word then.
Spread the word like wildfire, like a folklore, right? So, you know, but we do have like revenue sources. So if you go on the site right now and you sign up, if you go on the site, you sign up, you can watch the videos for free, create your own account. And then what happens is that you, if you want, because like I said, the information is kind of general, right? But if you want for your specific business, Cameron, you can actually buy a consulting service. You can buy a tailored report. So what we can do is we can audit. For example, if you want to know, is my business plan up to like scratch? We can actually audit your business plan and say, this is what's good about it. This is what's not good about it. You know, if you want, and we can tailor it for, I'm looking to get investment. Okay, this is what you're going to need to do if you want to get investment. Do you get what I mean? So we do have revenue sources. We're not pushing it out there because, like I said, it's about getting those people in
and just spreading the word to us.
As many people in the door. I mean, let me talk about like the future. In terms of like our future, we want to create that revenue, that subscription base, where people, once we fully create the platform that we want to create, you're going to have to pay, you know, a subscription to access, you know, the platform, right? And then eventually we want to be, because I told you that fourth pillar of connection. Right, I think that's the most important thing.
The most important.
We want to bring entrepreneurs together. And I don't know quite how that looks in terms of what platform we're going to create, but that's going to be our main thing. If we can find a way to bring entrepreneurs together, to you know, those small and growing entrepreneurs, if we can find a way to bring them together, that's the key, in my opinion.
So what my understanding is that you're basically creating a platform where, you know, startups can like actually connect with each other. That's what you're like trying to create towards the end.
Not just startups, freelancers,
like freelancers and any individual who wants to take this as a professional career, who has a keen interest into it. So in terms of like transformation, then what's your take on digital transformation? Like in terms of like that's kind of like the fifth like industrial wave, I would say, in terms of any business, in terms of the go-to thing in terms of what's your take on in terms of startups going more digital towards businesses going towards online and then just ignoring the more traditional side of things then?
I mean, we were talking about it earlier, right? Unfortunately, there are things in life that you're just gonna have to embrace, right? And even if, you know, we might not agree with it, it's the way the world is going, right? I think, you know, if I could just give a little background, I think sometimes humanity, we tend to try to progress where it's unnecessary to progress, right? I think we tend to force progress in certain areas. However, you know, if we're creating progress, then we have to go with the wave. You either go with the wave or you get left out, right? If you think about companies that, you know, at the top level, back in the day, 25 years ago, those companies are not here today, right? So if you don't follow what's coming, I
think it's more about adaptability.
Perfect.
Like you mentioned in one of our conversation that I think you have to adapt to like situation. Like every single time. And that's where you're gonna go.
But the thing is, like I was telling you, it's all about inputs and outputs. If you can, digital transformation, you know, AI, all these things that are coming, inputs and outputs. What you need to do, the secret for you as a small growing business owner, as an entrepreneur, is you need to understand the inputs. If you understand what's going into digital transformation, if you understand what's going into AI, you can manipulate the result for your benefit. But if you don't know, if you don't understand what AI, what the foundation of AI is, if you don't understand the foundation of, you know, why working online is better than doing in person. If you don't, in certain situations, it's better in person. If you don't understand that, you can't use it towards your benefit, right? And you'll be using an old model when the world is moving towards a new model and taking advantage of that, So, to all the entrepreneurs, you need to understand why. Not just understand what, but understand why is this happening. And then once you understand what's going into it,
tailor yourself accordingly.
Perfect.
In terms of like
finishing my sentences.
yeah.
Perfect.
So in terms of my next question would be in terms of like venture capitalism in terms of funding. So we've seen that startups, the reason that like you mentioned like you want to make money, and startups usually start because they want to make money. So what's your take on people that start initially but they don't get the required funding and then they probably shut down because of some reason? So what's your take on? And did you like go into that like kind of aspect at the beginning?
Listen, I'll say this one time for entrepreneurs out there: don't sell your soul for cash. Don't sell your soul for cash. Like cash, there's the saying, but cash is king.
Yeah.
But don't let it take over your business. Don't let it be the be all and end all. That if I don't get any investment, that means my business is not going to work.
Yeah.
Venture capitalists are in it for themselves, obviously, and that's fair enough. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. However, especially in these times, recession times, it means they're going to audit more. They're going to make sure that whatever they're investing in is more up to scratch. And the thing is with venture capitalists, they all tend to invest in the same types of businesses and the same types of people. They don't tend to diversify, so don't sell yourself for cash. What's important, especially at your stage, if your idea doesn't get funding or if you don't think you're going to get funding, you don't need funding. Yeah. What you need is other entrepreneurs. The way you scale when you don't have money is by partnerships. And this is what people don't realize.
I think you probably instead of going towards the funding, why not do some collaborations, get the name out?
Perfect. Yeah. That's exactly how I grew. I wouldn't be here today if I didn't actually utilize the people around me. Yeah. If I said, I'm never going to start because I need £1 million, I would have never got anywhere. But if you go and use the people around you, if you go and even not just businesses, but literally people, because everybody's got something in them that they're actually good at. Whether it's Jacob here, he's doing videoing, right? Yeah. Cool. Be like, yo, Jacob, could you help me out? I don't know what you're good at, but whether it's speaking, stuff like this, say how can we benefit from each other? Yeah. What's the value trade-off? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you can use that to scale. But don't go selling your soul for cash. Too many entrepreneurs are, I'll give away 50% of my business for £250,000 of cash. Yeah. Listen, £250,000, that's okay. That might seem like big money, but in the real world of business, that's nothing compared to what you're getting now. You're just giving away 50% of your business. What? Yeah. Don't do that. The Apprentice is good for getting your name out there, but I think what's the deal? You get 200,000 and he gets half of your business, Lord Sugar. Isn't that what it is?
No, I have no idea.
But I think on The Apprentice, that's what it is, right? You get 250K, but he gets 50% of your business.
Because normally I've watched Dragon's Den.
Dragon's Den.
Yeah, Shark Tank, where they have crazy amount of valuations in terms of for example, if you have, because valuation is based on whatever amount that you ask is a 20x to what the business is.
Yeah.
So crazy amount of money people ask in terms of
crazy amount of people ask, and they always ask about crazy amount of equity, right? Don't sell your soul for cash. If you can scale with the people around you, do it. And in 99% of the cases, you genuinely can. You can go to your fellow entrepreneur who's at the same size or maybe a bit larger than you and say, okay, how can we benefit from each other? And don't be scared to give away value. Give away as much value as possible. I promise you, it will come back to you. It will come back to you.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of we've talked about your marketing, in terms of digital transformation, venture capitalism. So I want to talk about failure. I mean, every startup, every business has its failures, has its downs. So what's how important is to accept failure and in terms, because not a lot of people accept failure and they ultimately say, okay, fine, this is not for me, this is not my cup of tea, and then they actually just completely vanish. So how important is for startups and founders like yourself to for example, if they have a certain setback, how to basically embrace it and then just come out of it? So what's your take on it in terms of that?
If you never embrace failure, you'll never be successful. That's just the key, because you always give up at the first hurdle. You always give up at the first time you fail. And the thing is, failure can come in many different packages. you don't necessarily, your business doesn't necessarily have to fail for, I mean shut down for you to actually fail. So it could be like you do a product launch and that product launch doesn't go well. That's a failure that you can learn from. It can be like, you know, you mishandle a client, you know, and you lose that client. That's an example of failure. Exactly, but the thing is, you always need to be able to learn from it, right? You always need to be able to take the learnings from each individual. I feel like I think the reason why failure scares a lot of people is that we think of it on a macro level, like, oh my God, I'm going to lose the money that I invested, I'm going to lose the capital, I'm going to lose the business. But no, you fail every day without realizing. And if you can learn to look at it on a micro level of, okay, I failed, like, I didn't get up out of bed at 6 a.m. like I said I was going to get up out of bed. Yeah. That's a failure. Okay, what can I do tomorrow to learn from it? Do you get what I mean? And I think if we take a micro look at it instead of a macro, oh, my business is going to fail. And that can happen, but you fail more on a micro level than you ever will on a macro level, in my opinion, right? Yeah. You know, you fail on the little things. And if you fail forward, which means, you know, failing and then, you know, learning and moving forward, then those macro failures won't seem as much of a big deal because you're learning anyways. You're learning to fail.
I think that's really important to, you know, embrace failure and learn from your failures and just come up with a way that, you know, okay, fine, next time, you know, you won't do that same mistake that you've done in the past. So what's your take on like sustainable like innovation? I mean, a lot of startups are coming in, they're coming up with any product, any service which is centered around sustainability. Have you ever come across any client in particular where you've talked to you about like, we want to do something which is like centered towards sustainable innovation? So
yeah, definitely. Come across a couple of clients like that. And here's my take. It might be a bit controversial, but here's my take.
Yeah,
it's a bandwagon. That's my take. It's a bandwagon that a lot of people are going to fall off of the bandwagon.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Sustainable development is important, and sustainable business is important. I think, you know, it's the way to make sure that, you know, we do business in a good way that benefits us and benefits the planet. I think that's important. However, just like any other market, sustainable development is a market. Sustainable business is a market. You have to think of it as a market. And too many people are jumping on this, you know, my business is sustainable, right? My business is, we do this and why that's good, they think it's a USP. And if you know, your unique selling point, they think it's a unique selling point. And the thing is, if everyone is now saying, oh, my business is
sustainable, and we have that kind of like 100% like quality stuff like that.
At that point, is your business really, is that as USP? If everybody is now starting to say the same things in the same way, is it really a USP? Sure, it might make you stand out in certain aspects, but a lot of businesses are banking on that being their main thing. And in my opinion, eventually you're going to fall off because when people drill down into it, there's, you know, a service or a product and there's, you know, what I'm going to buy. Me as a customer, there's a product and a service that I want to buy. Cool. In my opinion, the sustainable stuff, that's your packaging. Right, but what's your product? What's your real service? Do you get what I mean? And a lot of people are very good at the packaging, the outside stuff, you know, sustainable and, you know, everything is 100% carbon neutral. But when we drill down into what your product is, we see that it's nothing. We see that it's actually, you know, it's BS, right? It's, you know, and that's why I say a lot of businesses are going to fall off this bandwagon of sustainable development. And what really annoys me,
it's more towards like being into the good books of like investors, or like, say for example, if any investor comes on board and say, okay, if you're a sustainable startup, I would love to invest in it. It's more of like being into the good books rather than
facts,
not knowing anything about it.
And that's the thing. There are genuine businesses who who are trying to be sustainable and actually have a good product underneath. Those are the businesses we really need to look into. You can't just say, oh, you know, I'm going to sell, I don't know, toilet paper and somehow that's sustainable. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. The very fact that doesn't make sense. But what really annoys me is these bigger companies. I think the bigger companies are setting the trends. I was walking the other day and I saw an ad for butter by one of these like big companies. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but like Folklore, or like one of these big butter companies. And they said, they were advertising a new product and they said, you move away from the old style of butter, this is the new butter, something along those lines, right? And it's vegan butter, not made from cows. I think the exact words were the same butter, but without the awkward cow part. So they're saying that, you know, they don't, you know, milk milk cows to get whatever. So it's completely vegan or whatever. And I was thinking to myself that if they were just telling us, okay, this is an alternative to the product that we already have, that's fine, cool. But what they're saying is that they want us to move away from the traditional butter to what they have now. But the problem is, 5 minutes, cool. But the problem is, 90% of these guys' revenue comes from traditional butter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's that hypocrisy of you are telling us to move away from traditional but you yourself, the most money that you're making is coming. And sure, it might eventually come from the vegan butter, but you can't. If you really want to do it, fine. Say every product that we're selling now is gonna come from this vegan.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of like you said, I mean, people are there to like make money, even saying that they're traditionally not traditional, even they're saying that they're sustainable stuff. But you've mentioned about your whole journey and how you've ventured into this and did you had any experience before that? I mean, in terms of like not knowing in business wise, did you had any experience before? This is your first.
This is my first major. I've always been a guy who started small things,
and step by step, baby steps that you took, and then just kind of like.
And then this one, I was like, let me just
do it. So like we talked about digital transformation. We talked about sustainable innovation. We talked about funding and how it's not necessarily important to go towards funding.
It's not partnerships.
So in terms of all of this together, I would want to ask one final thing: that like the big question, how would you like tell the next generation, or how would you like tell someone, an aspiring individual who wants to take up entrepreneurship as a career, as a profession, what are the key steps that they would need to look into before getting into this or venturing into this kind of field? So
like my key advice, or what are the steps? Which one?
So I mean, anything. You can just sum it up in terms of your key findings and what you've experienced throughout this whole time.
I don't think that I can give you steps because I can tell you the basic stuff. So
the basic learn.
But the thing is, you've already heard that. You've already heard that you're gonna need to research the market. You already heard that you're gonna need to work hard. You already heard that you're gonna need to fail. The one thing that I can say that's gonna be different from most of these entrepreneurs is that you need to learn to sow seeds, right? And what I mean by that is you need to learn to go and plant seeds in different areas, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs, when they start off, they think that this is my business. Yeah. It's gonna be like this. It's gonna be like this big vision that I have in my head. Yeah. However, first of all, you don't have the cash to make it exactly like you want. Second of all, you're not gonna necessarily dictate your business. The market is, right. Yeah. The market will actually dictate and chop off parts they don't like and add in things that they do like. Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to plant seeds in different areas, make connections in different areas, because you never know where the real business is going to come from.
Exactly.
There are I can promise you, 90% of big businesses today is different from what the founders had in their head. Even Steve Jobs, even when he started, I'm telling you, the vision has, I know he's obviously sadly deceased, but what Apple became is probably not what he had in his head, right? So you as a small entrepreneur, you need to be comfortable in, going from area to area. You need to be comfortable in sowing seeds. You need to be comfortable in making connections with different people, getting out of your comfortable area.
Like we mentioned, we had this, mentioned in the conversation that it's all about networking. It's all about, planting the seeds and just not focus more towards the money side or the funding aspect of it. And I think it's really important for like upcoming individuals or startups who want to venture into this, that don't forget that how many money you've put into this business. Just focus on the idea, focus on the idea. Yeah, just focus on the big thing that's right in front of you. Yeah. All right, so we've talked about your startup, Folklore. We talked about digital transformation. We talked about venture funding. We talked about that, why it's really important to accept failure. So my question, the one final question that I would normally ask my guests is that what's that one advice that you would normally give to anyone who is aspiring to become an entrepreneur, who wants to venture into this profession? So what's the one advice? And the floor is all yours.
Yeah, no, the one advice, like I was saying earlier, I could probably say, the basic stuff, work hard or do your research or pick a product.
Basic things that normally...
but these things already. Entrepreneurs know that they need to do that stuff. I think the one thing that I can say that, maybe differs from what you usually hear is that you need to be able to sow seeds, right? As an entrepreneur, you need to be able to plant seeds in different places, right? Because a lot of entrepreneurs nowadays, they think that their business is going to come from this big vision that they have in their head, and, like I was saying, the vision that Steve Jobs had when he started is probably not what Apple is today, right? I know he's obviously dead, but the same thing with even Zuckerberg, right? What he thought Facebook was going to be is not what Facebook is. In fact, Facebook is mostly relying on Instagram, right? He didn't think of that, He probably thought, I'm going to have this great big vision. However, if you as an entrepreneur are willing to sow seeds, plant seeds, network, talk to people, be around other people, go to different places, speak at different places, meet different people, you never know where your big opportunity or where that growth is actually going to come from. But if you rely on, oh no, my vision is the best, my vision, you're going to fail. Well, you might not fail, but
so you're saying that vision
fail.
will normally change during the course of time, and you're saying that.
I think your vision might stay the same, or should I say your mission might stay the same.
Yeah.
However, the steps you take to get there, that's what's going to be different, right? The steps you think you're going to take is probably not what you think you're going to take to get there. So I'm just saying, be open. Like the first thing I told you when we started speaking is that I'm very versatile, I'm very open, adaptable, right? Yeah. So you as an entrepreneur need to be able to do that. If you can't do that, then
that's not the place for you to be.
Entrepreneurship is not the place for you. That's the truth. So,
that's really true, because I think we've seen a lot of startups coming in and not taking the advantage of what's really important about being there in the market and networking and all that stuff. So it's really important that instead of relying on that one specific thing, try to venture into different things, try to adapt, and just come up with a way to do.
And this is why I'll say just the final thing, this is why Wizlaw's fourth pillar was connection, right? Yeah. This is why we're really going big on connecting entrepreneurs together.
That's kind of like your future,
that's the future.
The future opportunity that you're normally looking into.
Exactly. I think there's such a hunger for entrepreneurs to be like, okay, I'm not alone in what I'm doing, right? Yeah. Because as an entrepreneur, it can be so lonely. It can be like, what am I really doing? What's this business thing that I'm starting? What's the point in me doing this? So, but if you see other entrepreneurs, you talk to them and you see, okay, this person can do this and I can do this. Okay, how can we actually gain value from each other, right? If you see that, then you're more likely to be more encouraged, you're more likely to grow, and you're more likely to progress as an entrepreneur itself. So that's why I'm really on a mission to connect. The way you scale, you can scale with money, but as small entrepreneurs, you don't necessarily have access to that. But the other way you scale is through partnerships with people like you.
People. So I think we might see a future Whistler event.
Almost. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally in talks with different people to get a Whistler event, and around the UK,
bringing different people into that event and just kind of making that whole networking in the community.
Yep, exactly.
That's a great thing. So, well, thank you, Zion, for having this lovely conversation and talking more about your startup. So
appreciate it.
So next we're gonna have a Q&A, so that I have different people who would love to have some questions they have, and you'll be kind to answer those questions. So the floor is all yours.
Of course.
Anyone who wants to, ask a question,
sure. What was your the good and bad sides of entrepreneurship, and how do you guide people to go towards the good side?
Okay, so that's what you mean. I thought you meant what's the good, advantages of entrepreneur and disadvantages. So you mean good and bad in terms of good and evil? Is that what you mean?
Kind of, yeah. So what makes you strive to go towards more the good side than the bad?
So there's two things. My favorite book says the real love of money is the root of all evil, right? That's one. And then there's also another saying that says power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? Those are the two evil sides of entrepreneurship. And it's funny because those are the two main benefits that you get from actually being an entrepreneur. You get money if you do well, and you get power, right? Because you get to make your own decisions, right? But the thing is, those two same things that can be a benefit can also be your downfall, right? Entrepreneurship, we want to make so much money. We really want to do well to prove to other people and to ourselves that, that we had this, idea and we made it work, right? However, in your pursuit of getting to that point, don't sell your soul. Don't become what you despise. Thing is, a lot of people want to be rich, but people actually don't like rich people. Everybody wants to be rich, but everybody also hates rich people, right? Do you know what I mean? You see the most cussed out people, the most hated people are billionaires. They'll say, you sneaky billionaire, you.
How do you get all that money?
How'd you get all that money, right?
Yeah.
And some of them that, criticism is warranted. Some of them it's not, right? You just have to know in your heart that I'm doing the right thing. I'm not being corrupted by money.
Yeah.
I'm not being corrupted by power. I'm not, using different avenues to get, what I want instead of the right avenue. And I promise you, short term, you might lose. Yeah. But long term, you will always win, especially in public opinion and in general, you will always win. Those entrepreneurs that do it the right way in the long term, it might take longer for them to get there, but in the long term, they will always win over the short term. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of a business called Enron. Enron was like one of the biggest businesses in like 2000. And then it came out that they were, financially like manipulating their finances. The next day, Enron didn't exist anymore, right? And all it takes is one expose on you to shut down your business. So do it the right way. I'm not saying you're gonna have to push boundaries. Like, you can push boundaries and not break the law at the same time. Yeah, I'm a pusher of boundaries. I like to push boundaries. I like to do things that are a bit cheeky. But one thing I'll never do is break the law. One thing I'll never do is go above my remit. In certain aspects. So I think that's kind of the good thing. The good and the bad kind of, it's like a yin and yang. You just have to make sure you're staying true.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zion, and thank you, Cameron. So my question is, which 3 skills do you think has helped you the most in your entrepreneurship journey?
3 skills. All right, cool. Number 1. And I think it's number 1 is adaptability, right? I've already said it before, you need to be able to adapt. You need to be able to change course, right? And it's one of the things we teach on Wizlaw. One of the things we teach on Wizlaw is your ability to evaluate and then adapt, right? There's a company, if I could just tell a quick story. There's a company, and see if you can find out what company I'm talking about. Company started off as a vlogging website, right? And this guy, he put a camera on his back, right, on his back, and this was like 2007, where you didn't have like iPhones and stuff that would freaking video you everywhere. He put a bag on with camera and a microphone strapped to him, and he would walk around and like speak and vlog himself like 24 hours a day, right? And then that was working for a while, but people kind of got bored like of watching him sleep. Like, they were like, okay, I'm kind of getting bored. Okay, he saw this and then he adapted. Right? So he said, instead of just me vlogging myself, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna allow other people to vlog, right? So he created a platform where other people can start to vlog themselves, right? They can, attach cameras to themselves and film themselves like all day long. Is anyone kind of getting an idea of what business it is?
I think so. I don't know.
No, not yet.
YouTube.
Is it?
YouTube.
No, it's not. Okay, so I understand why you think it is, but it's not. So then he went to that, and then people were kind of doing inappropriate things. So people, I don't know, killing themselves on the night, which kind of went bad. You got it, by the way, but don't say it out loud. So
No, you
then
can say it
don't say it though, because I want it to be like a surprise. Then he pivoted again, and what he found out, he looked into the business like, okay, what's working and what's not working, right? He looked into the business again, and what he found out is that people liked to watch other people do gaming. You get it now?
Yeah.
What is it? Twitch, right? And yeah, he got it. Abdullah got it just for. But do you see how? So he saw that people like to watch other people gaming. So he pivoted again, and he was like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna become this platform that allows you to watch other people game and to play games at the same time." But do you see where he started and where he ended up? Like, at the beginning, he would have thought, I'm going to be this vlogging. And it was working for a while, right? He was vlogging. People were watching him. If he thought, maybe we're just going through a down period, if he refused to adapt to what was changing in the market, his whole business would have failed. So he went from vlogging himself to allowing other people to vlog, to watching other people game, to eventually becoming Twitch. And guess how much Twitch sold for? It sold for $1 billion to Amazon, right? And that was because he looked into his business and adapted and kept on adapting to what the market wanted. So again, that skill of adaptability, that's number 1. Sorry, I kind of took a long route, but I think, it kind of, emphasizes the point. Second skills, you need to be confident. I'm sorry. I think long gone are the days where you're a computer nerd who, does typing and somebody will come and give you $1 billion to do. That might work. but you're gonna have to be as big of a genius as like Elon Musk. I can't lie. And even these guys, Elon Musk can get on the stage and wow people. Like I'll tell you a different story. In my opinion, there are two types of entrepreneurs. And I was going to say this presentation, but I might as well say it now. Two types of entrepreneurs, specialist and a generalist, right? Can anyone tell me what you think that means really quickly? Specialist and a generalist.
I think specialist is that you tend to focus on one area of
Perfect.
business, and where generalist is that you're just kind of like generalizing the entire concept of what you want to do. Like, we want to make money, that's it. Like, business is normally started because you want to make money.
Yeah.
It's not about making like a social, I wouldn't say a social impact, but I would say a kind of like a problem solving idea.
So yeah, I mean, essentially you got it right. Specialists are people who are very good at one thing. So you might be very good at computer coding, right? And a generalist is somebody who's kind of good at everything. They're good at finance. They're good at sales. They're good at leadership. And there was a company, you might know it. It's called Apple, right? And there was two founders of Apple. Who knows the two founders? Steve Jobs and no one knows the second one, did they? What's his name? Steve. He's also called Steve. Thank you, Jacob. Steve Wozniak. Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. These guys were polar opposites. Steve Jobs, you can tell me which one Steve Jobs was. Was he a generalist or a specialist? No. I would say Wozniak was a specialist. Steve Jobs was a generalist. Because Wozniak was the one who actually invented the software. Steve Jobs didn't do any of that. Steve Jobs could barely code. But we all think of Steve Jobs as the main guy because he was the one who was out there. He was the one who was, putting it forward. He was the one who was selling it properly. But Steve Wozniak was the one who actually invented the software that made Apple what it was, right? But here's the thing. Without Jobs, there's no Apple. Yeah. Without his confidence to go out there and sell his product the way he did, to speak to other people. I'm not saying Steve Jobs wasn't smart, but what he was really good at was the confidence. What he was really good at was being able to sell. And the stage presence that he had when he walked on there and he presented Apple, the phones. Do you know what I mean? Without Jobs, there's no Wozniak. But to be fair, at the same time, without Wozniak, there's no Jobs, right? So while you may need to be a specialist in certain areas, you're also going to have to develop into this generalist. You're going to have to develop into this person that can lead, this person that can do sales, this person who knows the numbers inside out. If you stay as a specialist, then you're best being a number two.
So I think what you mean is that you want someone to be an all-rounder rather than just focus on like one key area.
Yes, you can't just focus on one key area. Like usually what happens then is they bring in a CEO who knows how to do the all-round kind of stuff. Yeah. And then you can focus on your, like coding or whatever. Yeah. But if you want to be the leader, if you want to be the guy, if you want to be the entrepreneur who's taking your business where you want to take it to, you have to learn to be, that person. And that comes from your confidence. You can't just stay behind your code. You can't stay behind your product. You need to get out there. You need to be able to pitch it to perfection, So that's the second one, confidence. And then the final one, what have I said? So I said adaptability, confidence. And then I think the final one is learning to fail. You have to, like I said,
accepting failure. I think that's
accepting failure.
That's really important.
Yeah, those are my 3 ones here. Hope that makes sense.
That's good. Any more questions? Anyone wants?
Learning to fail, so failing forward, like I was talking about earlier. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
What is that one initial step that an entrepreneur has to take in order to turn his idea into reality? That one initial step.
The one initial step you have to take is you have to jump off the cliff. No, I'm being serious. So let me tell you a story. I listened to a podcast by it's a guy called Reed Hastings. Not Reed Hastings, that's the guy that did Netflix, but it's called Reed something. And he Reed Hoffman, right? And what he did, he founded LinkedIn, right? And on this podcast, the one thing he also says is entrepreneurship is like you've been dropped. Like in Fortnite, you just get dropped. Yeah? Entrepreneurship is like you drop out of the sky and you have the tools to build the plane that you need to survive, but you have to build it while you're falling. Yeah. That's entrepreneurship. But the thing is, so many people are too scared to be falling. And that's the problem. You have to learn to jump. You have to learn to... So many people have great ideas that they're just hiding and keeping for themselves. That's so selfish.
Just take risks. I think risk-taking ability, you need to have that.
And I don't think it's just risk-taking. It's that first one. It's always the first one. Because once you do the first one, the rest get easier, But you have to be able to be like, you know what, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to jump off the cliff. I'm going to try and build my I'm going to try and build my plane. And if I fall and I can't build it on time, then I die. But guess what? At least I tried. You get what I mean? You know, and it's that's the one thing. I could tell you, I could tell you a tactic, but no. I promise you, the one thing that will get you further than 99% of other people is your ability to jump. And jump when you're not confident. Not because so many people try and accumulate as many resources to make them feel confident. And that, in my opinion, that can help, but that gives you a sense of overconfidence. If you jump while you're brave, if you jump while you have no resources, then you can, you have more hunger, more drive. So yeah, that's one thing I would say. Jump. Just do it.
Just do it and just
go.
Be out there then.
Be out there. Yeah.
All right, so anyone who has any question? Yeah.
Just definitely.
I've got two for you. So the first one is, I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, one of the things people struggle with is the balance of team or self. So the idea of like, is it better to have a team, or is it better to, because obviously if it's not something you sort of come up as a group, it's an idea that one person sort of has, and they're bringing people on. People usually have the struggle of when do I get
bring other people
built in. So I guess my first question would be regarding the team. Is it because you've got a co-founder with you as well? So that's great. But for anyone who sort of might be watching, or anyone here that's sort of got a business idea and they don't have a team, is a team something they should sort of start looking for to begin with, or is a team something that they should just sort of, as the idea sort of builds up, a team will come because people will see that your business is viable. Okay. First question, then I'll ask
Okay, cool. In my opinion, it depends on you. It depends on your vision. Teams are very complicated. And I wouldn't say my person is a co-founder. Is more of like an advisor that just helps me.
Was he there with you in the beginning when you were?
He was with me at the beginning. Now he's kind of moved on to a role of I'll advise you. Do you know what I mean? Because he's got more experience on like a marketing side of things. But I've kind of taken this road of I want to do it on my own for now, and then I'll bring others when the time comes. In terms of building a team, again, it depends on your vision. If you are a strong-willed person, in my opinion, it's better for you to go it alone, right? For now. The thing about teams is you have to make sure everyone's happy. You have to make sure everyone eats the same way, like especially when you start it, because when you start it, everybody kind of has the same sense of entitlement to the business. Especially if they didn't do as much work as you. So if you're the main founder, and you have a few co-founders, no matter how much the business develops, everybody's going to be like, I did it as well. I was there at the beginning. So if you can go it alone, in my opinion, and people might agree, go it alone for as long as you possibly can. Do it alone, right? That gives you power. That gives you the control. That gives you the authority. That gives you the decision-making prowess to do things that, when you're in a team, it slows you down mightily. It really slows you down because you have to make sure he's happy and make sure her's happy. And
you want to make everyone happy.
You want to make sure everyone's happy. But in my opinion, go for it alone for as long as possible. The time when you need a team, the only time when you're going to start needing a team is when you physically can't do it on your own. Right? So when you're doing the job, if you're doing the job of two people, in my opinion, you still don't need a team. In my opinion, right? Because that's the startup chain. That's the startup stage. You're going to have to do that, If you're doing the job of three people, okay, in my opinion, I would still keep it. Because it keeps that hunger, it keeps that desire, right? When you start to get to four people, you're like, I'm going to need to bring some people in. But the thing is, and this is why I kind of advocate entrepreneurs actually stay away from venture capitalism, there's this falsehood of security when you get money to be like, I could go let me go hire some people. But the thing is that money only lasts for what? There's a burn rate, right? So the burn rate probably lasts a few months and then what? Especially if you haven't started, bringing in revenue like you think you would. Then you're going to have to go raise more money, lose more control. There's that falsehood of security, So go for it as long as you possibly can alone. And then when you really, really need to, in my opinion, start to bring people. When you're doing the job of four people, in my opinion, then you can start to bring it on. Because you get to a stage where you have 20 people around you and you're like, oh my God, I can't afford to pay these people. I can't afford to pay these guys. Where am I going to get money from? And you're going to have to start letting people go, and it's going to get sticky and all of this stuff. So just be smart, be clever with how you hire. And always hire right. Always hire right. Always bring in the right people. People that align with your vision. People that that if things go wrong, then you still keep control, right? You don't want to ever lose control, especially when you start something and you're building it.